What's up guys, it's Sebastian, and today we're heading to Whistler to go skiing. Big favor before we dive in is to give us a thumbs up, and if you are new, consider subscribing. First part of the journey is heading over to Vancouver. Right now we're in the SFO Centurion lounge and it's pretty empty. Hot food doesn't come until 5:30, so working on fruits right now. With the expansion, new guest policy, and the flights we tend to take, the Centurion lounge ends up being either empty or at least pretty reasonable. If on the other hand you fly Mondays with the rest of the business travelers, then obviously it can be a lot tougher. If you're a Centurion card member, you get an apple. Wow!
Wonderful.
Okay, landed, went through customs, picked up our stuff, got our bus tickets, and figured we'd get some Timmy's, also known as Tim Hortons. We ended up getting a double coffee, everything bagel toasted with butter, and also a honey cruller. Probably a bit too much sugar. But yeah, anyways, that's good. We were debating driving, but we almost always get exhausted, so instead we took Skylinks. This is a bus service from the airport and also downtown Vancouver to Whistler. The prices are surprisingly affordable from downtown, running you only about $47 Canadian for round trip. So right now that's about 35 US. Since we are coming in from the airport, it's 85 Canadian round trip or about 63 US. If you are worried about snowstorms and potentially missing your flight, I would strongly recommend paying an extra $5 for flexible tickets. We ended up dropping the ball here, but more on that later. The bus is pretty nice, pretty much a standard coach bus with a bathroom in the back and pretty comfortable seats. We also ran at about 15 or 20% capacity, so plenty of space to spread out if you want to take a nap or relax. The bus runs multiple times a day, but I'd recommend going on the Express. The normal one goes through downtown, has a stop there, and takes about 3 hours if you are going in from YVR. On the other hand, Express is a lot faster at about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Pro tip, but I'd recommend sitting on the left side of the bus when you are going northbound to Whistler. It has some amazing picture and video opportunities at the mountains. The right side is fine, but the left side is beautiful. You can also ask for pickup and drop off from your hotel if it is one of the bigger ones. Here is me dragging our stuff to the Hilton. Once we got to the hotel, the check-in process was pretty smooth, and we did end up getting upgraded to having diamond status. We booked the base room, which was a king studio with kitchenette, and ended up getting upgraded to the premier studio with kitchen, which normally runs $427 Canadian, about 100 more. The room itself is pretty solid and spacious. You have a ton of room to spread out and enjoy yourself. Super comfortable king-size bed, fireplace of matches, a couch with a pull-out bed if you have a player 3 or maybe even a player 4 coming along, and fully ready to go kitchen. There's a stove, tons of cooking accessories if you want to bake or season your food, plates, cups, utensils, knives, pretty much everything you need to cook. There also is a sink and dishwasher for afterwards. Also a fridge and a freezer if you want to buy some stuff and stock up, or if you have leftovers. There also is a coffee machine in the corner. The bathroom is pretty standard, and there is a mini jacuzzi tub, which was pretty relaxing after a long day of skiing. Our room faced a village, but there are some other ones that faced a mountain, but this is pretty solid. On the first day, we had a bit of time before the mountain closed and figured we'd do a bit of skiing. I was hoping to ramp Mandy up from a bunny hill to greens and then maybe blues by the end of the trip, and on the first day she was handling bunny hills and the magic carpet pretty well, but she did start to struggle once we got to greens due to skill issues. Lots of room to grow though, and I think she's having fun. After heading back to the hotel and changing to non-ski clothes, we went out to dinner. We walked to Harajuku, and it's a pretty well-rated ramen and Japanese restaurant. It wasn't bad by any means, but a bit overpriced. As someone that has a lot of Asian food and ramen, I probably would not go back. It's solid, it's fine, but it's a 7 out of 10, and there's better places to try. If you want to save money and rather cook, then there is a grocery store in the village. The prices are a bit inflated, but still pretty reasonable by big city standards. If you're visiting from Vancouver, Seattle, LA, New York, San Francisco, it's pretty much the same prices as Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. We ended up getting some chips to finish off the night. Miss Vicky's are a solid 9 out of 10. Hard bites for me are a pass, probably a 3 out of 10, and one of the few bags of chips I haven't finished in a long time. For day 2, we had breakfast at the Hilton, which was free since we have diamond status. Nothing to write home about, passable by all means, but wasn't really that great. We did try a bit of everything, and the fruit was probably the best bet. Free coffee is also nice. I ended up skiing by myself for day 2 since Mandy wanted to get some work done. Whistler Blackcomb is a tale of two mountains. Since we technically only had really 2 full ski days, I figured I'd do 1 day for each one. I ended up taking the Whistler Village Gondola. There is a stop midway through at the Olympic Station, and that's where Mandy and I were hanging out yesterday. If you stay on it though, I'll keep going up. I ended up doing a bunch of runs around this area and it was pretty solid. Lots of options if you're a blue trying to improve their skiing. For me, I'm trying to get better at more technical runs, so this is a creek run. Also lots of food options on the mountain as well. Here is Raven's Nest. This is by the mid station at about 4,200 feet elevation. The food prices are not too bad at all, especially if you convert it from Canadian to USD. One great thing about Whistler is that it is pretty beginner friendly. You'll see greens, blues, and blacks all sharing the same lifts and leading out into similar zones. This is great if you have a group of different skill levels, or if you want to take some breaks from moguls and cruise on some greens. The only lift with a sizable line was the Peak Express chairlift. Even then, it wasn't that bad. It was probably about 5 to 10 minutes for the solo line. Lots of rocks here and expert skiing conditions if that's your jam, and we are pretty high up. Also, some parts do require a bit of navigating and climbing. This is definitely an intimidating chairlift if you are scared of heights. At the end is the top of Whistler Mountain. This brings us to 7,156 feet elevation, technically about 9 feet from the top. For context, we're 3,000 feet above Raven's Nest, which is at about 42,000 feet. Also about 5,000 feet above Whistler Village, which is down at about 2,200. There is a statue here called an Inukshuk and a great view. I'm glad it was a bluebird day and you could see everything. Here's me and here is the Inukshuk. It's definitely a great way to feel on top of the world. Like we talked about, the big draw of Whistler is that you have a lot of options, and that's true even at the peak. So for us here, we have greens, blues, and blacks. For a lot of other mountains, the top is reserved for blacks and double blacks. I heard pretty good things about Peak to Creek and decided to do the run as kind of the last one before catching my final lift up. Peak to Creek is considered the crown jewel of Whistler and is North America's longest intermediate run at over 5.5 kilometers. The upper part of this was super fun and I would highly recommend it. Even if you are strong green, you should be fine. The lower half of Peak to Creek continues to run and a lot of people consider it a must-do. Pro tip though, if it is roped off, don't do it unless you're a very strong blue. For me, it was roped off, meaning that it was not groomed, and it was a mogul minefield. I can do moguls, I don't mind them, but I prefer them on shorter runs. It's a lot less fun when it represents 70% of the longest run in North America. There also were a few mandatory jumps that I didn't expect as someone that's never jumped before. It's about 6 to 7 feet wide for creeks, and if you stopped, you would have to kind of do some weird climbing, so you kind of had to send it. The lower half of the run took a lot longer than I expected, and I ended up getting stranded along Creekside. Since it was too late for me to get back on the lift, I had to take a bus from Creekside to Whistler Village. Kind of a lose-lose because the bus does require payment and they don't take Apple Pay, you need to have cash. Once I got back to Whistler Village, I met up with Mandy and we went to her favorite restaurant, Beaver Tails. Surprisingly tasty after a long day of skiing.
Whistler Villages is the biggest ski village in all of North America. A big reason for this is because of the Olympics. Back in 2010, Olympics were actually here and we're gonna head over to that village. Whether you wanna shop, whether you wanna eat, drink, party, a lot of different options. So there's a gigantic area, 3 different parts. We've been mostly staying in this red zone, so we're gonna try to explore blue as well as orange. Last night we ended up having dinner over here around the Whistler Conference Center. Let's go check it out. There are a lot of shops, tons of rentals, unsurprisingly. Also a Lululemon in case you need to buy more clothes. So we usually have 2 different sets of clothes. One that's like ski clothes for when we're on the hill, and then kind of like an after resort area setup. There are pod hotels here too, so if you are looking for something a little bit cheaper, then that may be a good option. Oh, there's also a Starbucks here. It's pretty busy though. We'll come back. Some fossils. Randy wants a jacket, and I think I know which one she wants.
That can fit both of us.
I think it fits 3 people in there. If you are on more of a budget and you don't want to splurge to eat out, there are a bunch of grocery stores here. Prices are maybe a little bit inflated, but they're not unreasonable. Like, they feel pretty fair. There's alcohol place as well as the grocery store. And then if you want Asian style food like ramen or something, there's also another grocery store as well. We might also be going the wrong way for where we're trying to go. Want to see the bridge? It leads into the Olympic Village. Let's go check it out. If you want to stay at a Marriott, then the Delta Hotels is over here. Also, Whistler Dental, a ton of steakhouses and stuff too. And Mr. Cow. Bessie may move, do not climb. Thanks, move. It is really cool that they made use of the village after the Olympics. A lot of other places, they build up these gigantic contraptions and stuff for the Olympics, but then they kind of forget about them. Yeah, this is nice. If you want to snowmobile or bungee jump, then there are options right over here. We are nearing the signature point of the Olympic Village and the Olympic Rings skating rink right behind. Definitely a lot quieter though, so it just depends on the vibe you're going for. I think if you are looking for more of a calm night and like a nice dinner, maybe this side. But if you want to drink, if you want to have fun, meet new people, other side. This is the main bridge to get to the Fairmont side. There also are a lot of cute little decorations. So you have 3 deers over there. They are pretty gigantic, and Mandy kind of stood by one as comparison. Super cute little walk.
After the deer, you have a footbridge and then a tunnel, and you are now on the Blackcomb side. This is probably the more expensive side given the hotel brands. For example, Four Seasons and also Fairmont. There does seem to be less street level restaurants on this side, so if you are looking to drink and party, probably not the right scene. There were a lot of people in the hotel restaurants though, so a bit different. Going into the Fairmont, you do have a few different options. There is a fast casual place downstairs, which looks pretty good. There's brisket and ribs, and we strongly considered it because it smelled pretty nice. If you head upstairs, they have 2 other options. One is a bar with live music and a more casual restaurant. They also have a fancy one, which we debated, but looking at the prices, it felt a bit too much and we stuck with the bar. We had live music performed during the first half of the meal, and I ended up getting the burger and the chowder. Mandy got the sandwich and also the chowder. Apparently the Fairmont chowder is famous. I really liked it and I would give it a 5 out of 5. Mandy was a bit more on the fence though and felt the fish was overcooked, and I think she'd probably give it maybe a 3.5 or a 4. I'm a fan, it was pretty hearty after a long day of skiing. The burger was also great and I would strongly recommend it if you are a burger lover. I feel like Mandy's sandwich was a bit more unique though and probably would go for that one in the future. We also did get a side of fries and it was huge, probably a bit too much food. When the bill came, we found out that the fries we got were the appetizer, so kind of the $15 range, and that kind of explains the size. The drinks were also pretty solid and the bartenders were super nice. I would definitely come back here if you want some good eats. The lobby area of the Fairmont also looks pretty nice and tons of people were using the pool and the spa, so I guess that's also pretty nice. For day 3, we had breakfast and I stuck with coffee and croissants. Mandy didn't really feel like skiing, so we went up to Peak to take pictures and to hang out. At the top of the gondola is Roundhouse Lodge. This is the hub of Whistler Gondola and the side of the mountain, and also connecting to Peak. Here there's 3 different food court options, a corner cafe, a bar, and even a full-service dining restaurant called Steep's Grill. Lots of options here and the prices feel pretty fair. A good way to refuel midday. Going outside, you also have additional seating and a bar. Also another Inukshuk enjoying the view. Side note, if you do lose your gloves, they do sell them up here, which is nice. Peak to Peak connects Whistler and Blackcomb mountains, and it spans over 3 kilometers, which is almost 2 miles. There's some pretty great views of everything. Each cabin holds about 28 passengers, and there are special ones with glass floors that you can see the landscape with. So if you can pick, I would definitely go for those ones. Once we got to the Blackcomb side, I waved goodbye to Mandy and skied Blackcomb. Visibility wasn't the best, and even blues were a pain because you couldn't really see the moguls. For some of the lower greens where I couldn't see anything, I ended up just following the person in front of me as a guide. Imagine taking off your glasses where you could see blurs and you were kind of following this giant red dot that was moving around. It was kind of snowing rain where when it landed, it would frost up on your goggles. Did a bunch of skiing, and then the last run was to the top and took 7th Heaven Express. Again, like we talked about, there are a lot of options of greens, blues, and blacks. Since I was already pretty tired and visibility wasn't the best, I ended up taking green all the way down. Pretty smooth sailing overall and with some pretty good views. If you are going back to the Whistler side, you can connect through the village run. There's going to be a point we see a parking lot and that's pretty confusing, but you can keep skiing and just keep left. This ended up being a race to the bottom since I had to get back to pack up everything and then catch the bus, which wouldn't be waiting for us. I think I was more scared of making a wrong turn here than pretty much any other time on the ski trip. Made it though, trekked back to the room before stuffing everything in and walking to the bus. For the bus, we got there with a bit of time to spare, which was nice. Okay, so how did we screw up? Initially, we bought tickets for later that day. While we were there, it was announced that a snowstorm was coming in. Snowstorm plus how tight it was for us to check in with our luggage made it make more sense to just buy an additional ticket that was earlier. So yes, technically we would have saved money by paying an extra $5 to buy flexible tickets. Weather for Whistler can be pretty fickle because you are close to the coast. Given this, I think it's well worth buying a flexible ticket to de-risk. You do need to call in a day beforehand for the change, but still something rather than nothing. Overall, I would strongly recommend Whistler as a resort. Awesome options for any ski level with a ton of terrain picks as well. The price of lift tickets can be pretty aggressive, so hopefully you have an Epic Pass or the local equivalent. Hotel accommodations are surprisingly reasonable compared to the US. For example, in Vail or Park City, we end up using our hotel certificates from our credit cards because of the value. For Whistler, we paid out of pocket because that made more sense. Food is also surprisingly affordable coming from a US city, nothing really bad other than the lift tickets. And even then, that's pretty consistent with the rest of North America. Also, if you are going later in the season, like in April, then check out the Four Seasons, which might only run you about $250 or $260 during the weekdays. Even Fairmont, which is the flagship hotel of Canada, is in the $250 range. In comparison, a similar hotel on the same level, like the St. Regis Deer Valley in Park City, would run you twice as much at about $540. And these are the same exact dates. It's a weekday, April 9th. After reorganizing our luggage and checking in, we went to the Plaza Premium Lounge to grab some food and drinks. Also do a bit of work. This is the first time we've visited since they renovated, and it does look a lot nicer now. Food was pretty much Thanksgiving style, turkey, mash, and other common sides.
If you made it to this point in the video, leave a skiing person emoji in the comments down below and I'll try to heart it and also respond. My question for you is, have you been to Whistler? Or if you haven't, what's your favorite ski resort? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favorite, thumbs up, consider subscribing. Otherwise, hope you liked it. See you next time.